What is going on, everyone? How are you doing? Let me know in the comment section below. I really want to find out. Today, we're going to look at a state that's actually losing more people than California year over year, the Empire State, New York. New York's population continues to decline faster than any other state in the Union, and that's according to new data released this month by the U.S. Census Bureau. A lot of people always assume it's California that's losing the most. They aren't even in the top 10 per capita. It may seem like it because various news outlets like to focus on it, but it's just simply not true. New York, most people feel, are almost like two separate places. You have New York City with all its boroughs, and then you have upstate, pretty much the rest of the state, with cities like Albany, Buffalo, Syracuse, Rochester. Only one decade since 1900 has New York lost population, and that was the 1970s. New York City was in such bad shape that it gave the rest of the state a really bad rep, and helped give rise to movies like The Warriors and Escape from New York, both in '79 and 1981. You know your city's in bad shape when a genre is created because of the gang problem in your city. These days, people are leaving for a multitude of reasons. Multitude doesn't sound like a real word. Let me look it up. Okay, it is a real word. So if you've learned anything today, you learned that multitude is actually a real word. I don't know why it seemed weird to me. Anyway, these days people are leaving for a multitude of reasons, and that's what we're looking at today. The most popular reasons people are leaving New York. So sit back and watch my top 10 reasons people are leaving New York. Number 10. Politics. This one's starting to be more and more a thing every single year. There's always been a divide between red states and blue states, Democrats, Republicans, but the last decade or so, it's become more of a no middle ground type thing. Politics have divided this country to the point where some people won't live in a state that leans what they consider to be the wrong direction. I think that's kind of dumb myself. That's how people want to live their life. Okay. One person in my comment section said it's because if they live in a place that historically votes opposite of what they vote, their vote is wasted. Well, I think your vote always counts. The way I see it, if you're in a state like, let's take Oklahoma, that overwhelmingly votes Republican, does your Republican vote mean more there? No, actually, I think it gets kind of mixed in with the masses. I mean, this whole state's already going to vote one way. I guess it's just how you look at it. But the fact is, people in New York are so bothered by the way their politics are being played out, they're actually willing to move to another state. Number 9, the weather. It's safe to assume that not everyone digs cold weather. New York has all 4 seasons, but they have brutal winters. Obviously more so in the northern section of the state, but pretty much the whole state still. New York is ranked 7th in the most snowfall in the United States. They get 55 inches a year on average. The only weather complaint you'll ever hear from New Yorkers is about the cold. New York has 3 of the top 10 snowiest cities in the country. There's a lot of people that feel dreary, gray winter skies in New York are just too long and too hard to handle, and they eventually leave. If you're like me and you think there's nothing wrong with that type of weather and you think it's actually the way you'd like it, keep in mind, most people think there's something wrong with us. Number 8, not for families. New York is not a great place for families. When you factor in things like schools, healthcare, crime, and a few other things, you get an idea of whether a city is good for families or not. New York isn't the worst, but they definitely don't get a shiny gold star award for this one. They're ranked 40th out of 50. Again, the cities make the rest of New York look pretty bad on this one, but the fact remains the 8th most listed reason people are giving when asked why they're leaving New York, it's not a great place for families. Number 7, millennials. Millennials are leaving and it's catching on. Millennials don't do overpriced and they generally think logically. In past generations, we did things because that's what you do. Commercials told us to buy something, so we bought it. The TV told us where the good places to live were, and we went there. And they don't buy cable. They don't buy expensive clothes. They don't need the latest car. Now, this is where someone pipes up with, I'm a millennial and I buy those things. I'm obviously generalizing, so stop typing. The thing is, one of the largest groups of people that's leaving New York is millennials, and they're all saying the same thing. It's not worth the price. They have sort of started a trend, and other groups are starting to see their logic. Number 6, unaffordable housing. Like California, New York has priced most residents right out of the state in most areas. The median home price in New York is $300,000. Now, considering there's a whole bunch of small towns nobody wants to drive through, much less live in, with dirt cheap homes, tells you that the more desirable locations are pretty pricey. The 6th most popular reason people are leaving New York is home prices. I mean, it makes sense. Why stay in a place where you don't really have much of a shot at the American dream, which is to buy a home? Unless you're, of course, in Ohio, where the American dream has been to score with a Hooters waitress for 13 years in a row now. Number 5, The cost of living. The cost of living is the amount of money needed to sustain a certain standard of living by affording the basic expenses such as food, transportation, utilities, insurance, and healthcare. The cost of living is often used to compare how expensive it is to live in one city or state versus another. And in New York, the cost of living is not a very pleasant one. The average monthly energy bill in New York State is about $210 a month compared to New Jersey, which is about $182 a month. It's next state over. Big difference. Gallon of milk in New York, $3.26. New Jersey, again, it's next state over, $2.30. Now, that all starts to add up. Sure, I'm just talking a buck here and, $30 there, but when you start considering all the different things, car insurance and everything else like that, it gets up there. I mean, like I said in California, for most people, it's just too expensive and they gotta move. And for others that can afford it, it's just not worth it. Number 4. Too much of a melting pot. This is actually a complaint by a lot of New York residents. A few people I know personally, actually. New York has always been a cultural melting pot. Even before Ellis Island was built, immigrants from other countries have landed in New York looking to start a new life in America. They all moved to whatever neighborhood housed the most of whatever race they happened to be. If you were Irish, Italian, English, whatever, you went looking for a place near your people. Chances are they were actually your people, like a cousin or something like that. The thing is, over the years, those neighborhoods are harder to define. More and more of those immigrants aren't liking what they see in New York and moving out as soon as they can. Fact is, some cultures just have far too much history to ever get along. Number 3, other professional hotspots. New York was once the only place you could find a real job in a lot of different fields. If you worked in stocks, you had to live in New York. Advertising, finance, street performer, whatever. These days, other cities have become hotspots for a lot of careers. Seattle is one of the best places for advertising. Finance, Charlotte, and Phoenix. Street performers, New Orleans, Portland, San Diego. Really, it's wherever your parents live because you're probably going to be living in their basement most of your life. Number 2, crime. Crime is a problem in New York, and it's not just New York City anymore. Niagara Falls is dangerous, and I don't mean in a barrel going over the falls. I mean walking to the corner store to buy more Mountain Dew. Buffalo's a nightmare all year round, not just when the Bills are playing. And of course, New York City has gotten better over the years, but it's still really a bad place. If you're a criminal and decide to move to New York City because you think that's a target-rich environment, you better have a good lawyer. The police bust everyone now. I have a friend that's actually a New York City police officer, probably for a couple more years. He said nobody gets a break anymore. They bust everybody for everything, especially around Midtown. Said it got so bad around there, and then Times Square. He goes, they just had to kind of iron boot it for a lot of years, clean it up. And number 1. Taxes. If you ever feel you're in need of a profanity-laced tirade, dial a New York phone number and ask whoever picks up how they feel about the taxes in the state of New York. The New York State income tax is 80% higher than the national average. This is the biggest complaint and reason people are escaping New York. It's bad. Their sales tax isn't crazy unless you get into like New York City, then it gets a little harsh, but their income tax is incredibly high. The property taxes in New York vary greatly between New York City and the rest of the state. In New York City, property tax rates are actually quite low. The average effective property tax rate in the Big Apple is just 0.80%. The statewide average is 1.65%. Those aren't crazy, but when you add it on to the income tax and everything else like that, it's nuts. And that's the main reason people are leaving New York and New York City. All right, so that's my top 10 reasons people are leaving New York. I hope you guys got some information out. Hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to give it a big thumbs up. Leave me a comment. Tell me what you thought. Let me know how you're doing. I really like to know. Everybody have a great day. Be nice to each other.